GCPD, The Blue Wall, issue 3, John Ridley writing with Stefano Raphael on the art, and continue the story of our three rookie cops. And although this one actually focuses a bit more on Montoya as a character, I would say, than those characters specifically. So this is Montoya's determined to basically prove that Two-Face is behind this recent Fox Tech robbery, and is putting all these resources into it, bunch of surveillance, all that kind of thing. She's like, we're definitely doing this, go after. There's a great moment in the art here where at the end of this conference room scene, she's left on her own, standing in front of a photo of Two-Face, and the art all turns red. When it's all been tinted blue, the entire scene, the colouring changes to this sort of like the demonic presence behind her. But Ortega, one of the cops, the rookie cops, he walks into the police station, and on the pin board is a photo of like a Mexican bandit with his face like put on top of it. And he goes to HR, like the room of cops all laugh at him, and he's like, look, this was kind of a hate crime. Like, can we talk about this? And the guy is sort of understanding, but it's kind of frustrating because he says, look, if you do this, if you actually go through, like, if you want to put this complaint in, we'll put it in. But if you do it, you're going to signal yourself out, and you'll be going to war with the rest of the cops. And that's going to be with you forever, or at least for a long time. And he meets him a couple of times, and he has this traditional scene that they have in this book where he's having like dinner with the other rookie cops, and they kind of agree, yeah, like what are you really supposed to do? Ultimately, you're kind of put back into a corner where it's bullshit that they're making this joke and it's offensive and all these other things, but how much shit are you going to get from all of them if you don't just shut up and take it? And he's sort of like confronted with that throughout the issue. And ultimately, when he goes back to the HR officer later, the HR officer looks, if you want to fight it, you're going to war with everyone. But here's what I recommend. Start noting down everything they do that is problematic. And if you ever choose to fight it in the future, have a record of everything. And not just like this one incident. Because one incident is going to be hard to sell. Because the first thing he says, well, was there like a derogatory word like written alongside the photo? And he's like, no, even though it's clearly a racist statement, right? They're saying he's a Mexican bandit. It's still like there has to be more to it to back it up, so on and so on. And even when he goes to Montoya, and you expect Montoya to actually have a bit of sympathy, and this is actually the great writing of the book. Actually, is that her reaction to this is she has a quick flashback of like when she was outed as a gay woman by a photograph on the pinboard. She had a very similar thing, but it was even bigger though because it was out in her personal life. Right. And she basically turns into a hard ass with him and says, look, you have to toughen up. Like, you're never going to make it here if you don't toughen up. So even Montoya, the character that we inherently sympathize with by default, because she's our character that we know from other books, we know from her backstory, she is like poisoned from this experience of going through this system that she's saying you have to toughen up and get over it. Otherwise, you'll never make it. And that's obviously the advice that shouldn't be given, that she should be sympathetic, she should want to fight for him, but she's too busy dealing with her own shit and has been too beaten down by this system herself, because she's not the rookie anymore, she's the veteran, she's the one who's been here for a long time, and she's been beaten down so much that even though she should sympathize with this, she doesn't. She gets tough on him, and maybe that's something she'll come back and regret later in the issue, or not the issue, but the series. But it's a very good strong character moment, and that she's like in terms of the flaw, and then like he does start writing this journal at the end of the issue of like everything that they're saying or doing to him that crosses a line. So yeah, it's examining another aspect of this stuff. He out of the rookies, he's the one who gets the most this issue. There's a little bit of stuff with Park, where she is offered like this. Basically, she's one of the cops that's now going to stand guard at a crime scene to make sure no one touches anything, because she thinks she's been given the job of like collecting evidence, and the guy's like, no, you're not collecting evidence. It's the forensics people do that. You're just there to make sure no one else touches it. It's the best. You get paid the same as everyone else, and you never have to do anything except stand there. And that's actually not what she wants. She wants to make a difference. She wants to do something meaningful, and she's been sort of like just jettisoned to this because of what she did before. So yeah, it's still a very frustrating thing to read, not because the writing's not good, but because it's pointing out all these problems in the system. And all of these things feel very realistic. They feel like you understand the frustration of the characters, and all three of them are just being pigeonholed into these things. The third rookie at this like dinner that he has with his friends reveals that he's actually quitting. The parole officer character's quitting because he blames himself for his parolee getting killed last issue. Also, kind of a gut punch. And Montoya basically lets her goldfish die because she's too obsessed with this Two-Face stuff. And even when everyone tells her to let it go, that Two-Face is not involved in this, she is determined that he's still behind it and keeps one officer off the books, like on surveillance. And Two-Face actually lures him into an alleyway and just sort of says, "Hi, like, what do you want?" And then eventually Two-Face talks to Montoya directly and says, "Stop obsessing over me, I'm not worth it. Like, eventually I'm probably going to do something bad again." There's an editor's note somewhere that says this takes place before what's currently going on in Detective Comics, just to sort of make it fit. But he says, "Look, I'm not worth this. Like, this obsession you've got over me, like, I'm not worth it. This is like Harvey trying to be a good guy, kinda." So, no, it's all really strong stuff. And the idea that Montoya's let her goldfish die, the idea that, like, as commissioner, she's letting, like, everything under her watch, like, crumble because she's too obsessed with the personal thing. So, you know, again, as a series is examining the pressures that these characters are under in this system, and how they're dealing with them and how they're feeling forced by their job to do things they didn't want to. Because it makes a point of mentioning here that they're not even 2 months into this job, and one of them has already, like, been demoted, or kind of, you know, and put into, like, shit detail because of they've been made this scapegoat, and then it turns out they lied, so they've been villainized for it. The other one here is the victim of racial kind of like jokes and slurs and things like that. And then the third one is quitting because he feels responsible for getting someone killed. Like, none of them are having a good time. And even Montoya, who we see as this strong character who's rose up through the system to a place of power as commissioner, is dealing with personal issues and doesn't have the sympathy for those under her that she should have. So, yeah, it's a very bleak book that feels like it's examining all the pressures get into these characters. It's a really compelling read. So, no. And probably my favourite thing that I've read from Ridley, I would say. And part of it's because it's very focused, it's got a real clear intent, and it fits into continuity well enough, but it's not really that important to it that it's in continuity. So, that's good stuff. Yeah, solid 8.5. I think this issue is. It's really good.